What's up? I'm going to show you part 3 here of this Dodge Caravan, and we are working on finishing up the top end of the motor. As you can see, it's all completely taken apart, right? And the inside of the engine doesn't look that dirty on this one. Bottom end is already off, so I can see the oil is clean, but there's no gunk on the top of the motor. There's 150,000 miles, and you can see inside of the engine just a little bit of oil, but no gunk at all whatsoever. This is your spark plug holes, and it's kind of hard to see inside there. There is some crud buildup at the top of the piston, but that's normal. It's not too much, nothing to be concerned about. There's your 1, 2, 3 spark plug holes in the back. Here's your valve cover in the rear, just as clean. Intake ports are pretty clean inside this little cathedral port here. And we do have a little bit of dirt buildup, crud buildup right here on this bottom part. I'll clean that out. It's the same story in all of them pretty much. These are your intake runners. That's your coolant runner where coolant runs through. That's the smaller cathedral. These little cathedral ports, you got your cylinders back here. I believe it's 135 in the back. I gotta check the firing order on these. And then you got your 2 smaller ones for your coolant to pass through. And this is a V6, so it'd be the same thing on this head. And they're in the same condition. They're clean inside. A little bit of oil built up right there on the tip. That's because the fuel injector, the reason why this is clean is because the fuel injector is spraying right there from where it's cleaned down. So that fuel injector will come in and spray there, but it's not getting this part. So fuel injectors are keeping that nice and clean. We'll clean up this area here that the fuel injectors aren't cleaning. I'll remove this. I put a rag down just so nothing falls in there. I'll remove this and let you look at the lifters down in here. Now I will need to get in here and scrape all this glue off and gasket. You wanna be careful that none of this falls into the engine when you go to clean and remove this stuff. Same on this side over here. You got this gasket, and you just want to be real careful that none of it, I usually pull away from the engine, falls inside of the engine. It's just dried up gasket. So you'll take a razor blade and clean all that up and clean all this up, and then after the razor blade, I'll usually follow through with some sandpaper and get this all nice and clean in here. These are your push rods, and these are your lifters in here. So you really want to make sure nothing falls inside here. And you can see your camshaft down there, and you can see the lobe on it looks pretty good. So yeah, you want nothing falling down in here. Nothing at all. There's your camshaft. Your lifter is down on that one. Up here you got your rocker arms and your springs, everything else. Everything looks good. It's just a matter of a little bit of cleanup here, replace the gasket, and put the rest of the intake on. I got the intake here. This is the gasket that was there. So this is the old gasket. It'll get the new gasket. And here you would have a metal bracket and then the bolt. Here you'd have a metal bracket and the bolt. Here's the metal bracket itself, you see? So that it would go there with the bolt that bolts that down, and then one on the other side. And then the intake will hold the rest of it in when you go to bolt the intake in all the way across. So once this intake's in here, the only thing that'll pass through here is obviously air and fuel and coolant. And then the valve cover seals the top end, obviously. So your lower intake gasket is that goes there. And it'll get a brand new one. And this is the lower intake. You have the upper intake, which has these gaskets, little rubber gaskets. And I'm replacing all of these. I'm just putting it in there to show you. So this will go in this position. And there's your upper intake, right? And obviously underneath will go your fuel rail, which I have up here with your fuel injectors. So the fuel injectors will sit in those holes. Fuel and rail will go there. You have your fuel rail injector harness, electrical harness that goes there. So you see how this is all coming apart. The tape is giving up, wires are exposed. I'll go and I'll retape all that. You look for any kinks or anything bad with the clips. These have the red safety clips that you want to slide out this way, that way. And then you push them back in to lock them in place. So you pull it out to unlock it and push it in to lock it. And once it's pulled out, it allows you to push the clip and release it. And this is the same thing, it's just you have to pop the red clip up and out to be able to push it down, and then you push it back down to lock it in place. So these all have locks. It's a Chrysler thing. They put these little plastic locks on all their plugs. All your fuel injectors have them. So you wanna be sensitive to all these and make sure you don't break them. And just inspect your harness carefully for any kinks, any bad wiring while you're in here. Make sure all your plugs and your wiring is good. So anyways, that's the harness. Set that out of the way on this other engine up there. Here's the fuel rail. And it's still leaking a little bit of fuel. I'll flip it upside down here and show you the injectors. And so the injectors have O-rings. See that rubber O-ring? And then it has another one. I don't know how well you can see the other one. This clip pops out, and then the injector pops out, and it has this same O-ring that it has here, right? In there, going into the actual fuel rail itself. And so each fuel injector has two O-rings, one at the top, one at the bottom, one at the top, one at the bottom. So it's 2, 4, 6 injectors for these three, and then obviously 8, 10, 12 total. So 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 6 and 6. Anyways, that's your fuel injectors. You never want to remove the fuel injectors without replacing fuel injector O-rings. These things, I don't know, this camera, like I said, is not the best at focusing, but this rubber gets hard. It's not even fun to get it off because you don't want to damage the plastic crown on the top of the injector. There's like a little plastic crown washer that it sits in, and you got to get this fuel injector off without breaking the plastic. It gets brittle, it's old, it's plastic, it's heated. Each one of these fuel injectors is like 40, 60 bucks. They can get expensive real fast if you break them, so you want to be real careful with that. Yeah, so I'll replace all those O-rings. I'll put the fuel rail back on. Dun, 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 like there. Boom, bolt that all up. Inside the intake, this is a good time to, I don't know how well you can see in there, to clean all that up. So I'll use some brake cleaner and I'll use some gasolina. A ella le gusta la gasolina. So we'll get that cleaned up. Show you the backside over here. This is where your thermostat is going to go in. And then on this opposite side, you have a coolant temp sensor and then an outlet going to your heater hoses. And I'll show you the bottom of this intake. See how nice and clean that is? That's how you want everything to be. That's what's underneath, under the lower intake gasket. So you want that to be nice and clean. And as you can see here, we're gonna have to clean all this surface, right? Get this all nice and clean. Sand all that down and get it all clean. The coolant ports are pretty clean here, but we're gonna clean inside these intake ports, and that's where the fuel injector is spraying out of that hole. So yeah, you want to get in there, clean all that up inside, scrape this whole surface with sandpaper. And man, this phone sucks so bad. iPhone XR, the worst phone to ever record a video with. Anyways, we're moving on from that intake. We want to clean this intake too. This is where your EGR goes. You can see it's a little crud in there, so clean in there. You can access in there with a brush through here, and some gas, the same, have access through here. So I get in with a brush and gas, and I get most of everything I can, and then I use spray cans of brake cleaner to spray out anything that the brush might have missed. So I'll do that. This is your front valve cover. This will get a new gasket. Here's your gasket, if I can get it off with one hand. So this is your gasket here. That'll get replaced, and all the grommets for the bolts, and then the inside will also get sprayed out and cleaned. The outside will get brushed and cleaned on both of those. And that's it for the cleaning. Then it's just slap it back together. The last thing on the tune-up I want to show you is the spark plugs. In the first video I showed you that I got Champion. He had Champion spark plugs in it, but as you can see, it's pretty rusty. Champion. These are not iridium. They were just your basic platinum Champions. Now these, I can't get them to focus. Okay, there we go. These are iridium. I don't know if you can see that. So these are iridium Champions. And my hands are dirty and I'm fudging them up. I'm about to take these busted gloves off and put some fresh gloves on, but after I'm done cleaning, I want to finish farting these gloves up while I clean. When you have cuts on your hands and you have to clean with gas, it's not fun. You want to have gloves. Gloves are really hard to come by, these black gloves. So right now they're super vital to have these gloves. So I'm gonna have to keep these gloves on while I clean all this. Then I'll take them off, put a fresh pair of gloves on, put everything back together. Anyways, those are the new spark plugs going in. I think I've pretty much covered everything here. Oh, the last thing I'll show you is the heater hoses. See if I can show you these heater hoses. So this end of the heater hose will attach to the back of the intake manifold there on the back of the thermostat. The original one has this in plastic and they break, and you can't detach the hoses from this Y fitting. So in the future you can't just replace a hose, you have to replace the whole assembly. Well, this one is aluminum. In the future you can just replace this piece of hose, that piece of hose, that piece of hose, and put a new clamp on it without having to replace the whole assembly. So, and then the aluminum isn't likely to leak like the plastic is. I have the plastic ones here. Show you the difference. You see what I mean? Plastic garbage, and you can't detach it from here. I'm not throwing these away because I'm gonna cut that right there and cut it right there and save the hose, because some of these bends on these hose will save you some time. This is what's failed. The plastic is leaking through the split in the middle, and it's been compromised for that reason. Here's the other one, same deal, there's two of them. So I'm gonna cut this one here and cut it there and keep the hoses, because one day I might need the hoses. The hoses are actually good. It's the Y, the split, that was bad. So I'll cut that there, save those hoses in my pile of hoses, and throw this Y pipe away. It's junk, I can't use that for anything. The same here with this, and I'll keep these sleeves because they might come in handy for later. So this is kind of like my junk drawer. Anyways, the new ones, like you see, are aluminum. So they'll never have to worry about that. They got to upgrade. And if you look at the one underneath it, it's the same thing. It's got the aluminum piece. And so you got this piece that comes from here to there, and then from here under there, and then you got this one that comes down into here, and the other one runs, you can't see it, but it runs the back to this lower one there. Now, detaching them from here isn't a lot of fun, but it's not the hardest part. You can get that done. This is aluminum, but it's a little harder aluminum. So you can, getting the clamp off is not hard. You can get the clamp off, slide it back. It's those hoses get so baked onto the aluminum from getting hot. It's a heater hose. You know, we live in the Sunshine State. They get so baked that you'll have the clamp off and you'll be trying to get it off, and you still can't get it off. And you got to get pliers and bite on it and try to twist it with the bite of the pliers and get it to free up, and it won't free up. But you struggle, eventually you get it. So those are a little bit of a booger, but they're doable. The ones that are the complete detestable nightmare are these back here. I'll tell you why. You see those where they go into? And if you look under here, look how much room is under here. I mean, you got the AC lines going into the evaporator, AC evaporator, and then you got your two heater hoses going in through the firewall into the heater core. And so, and then you got your little foam padding there, and you got your brake booster in the way here, and you got this windshield wiper assembly in the way there. You know, so it's real tight quarters. I'll zoom out so you can see. Here's your windshield wipe motor, and then you come under and it's buried under there. So you're just like, you're fighting in there. You got to have little girl hands to really play with that. But I'll end in saying that the hard part is there's a lot of liability in this, because if you release these clamps, which again aren't super easy to get to, but it's doable. You can get the clamps off. Once you get the clamps off, the original hoses are like just baked onto the outlets coming out of that evaporator out of there that you're going to slide this hose off of. And when you go to slide that off, you can't just slide it off. It's like you're trying to fight and bite, and you can't get pliers in here to bite on it and get it to come off. So you're like, what do I do? And if you squeeze on it too hard with pliers, that heater core, the pipes coming out are so small, so soft. It's like a soft aluminum. You could bend it easy and then it won't be perfectly round. The hose won't seal right, it'll leak. Now you're in a situation where you got to pull out the whole entire dash and HVAC box to replace a heater core, because you were trying to replace heater core hoses. So be real careful playing with that. If you don't know what you're doing, like, you really just want to let somebody else do that for you. So I'm going to give you my solution to how I do it in case you decide to be so bold, right? To say, screw it, I'm going for it. You see this slit right here that I cut into it? That's what you got to do. You got to slice it open. You can't get in there and fight to get it open, so you got to slice it open. So I take, where the heck did I put that thing? It's right here. I take a box cutter like this one, put a fresh blade on it, right? And get in there and slice it open. Get into the slice with a flathead, pull back, peel it back, and then work it off that way. Because the last thing you want to do is mangle up the aluminum on the heater core. You're replacing these hoses, so you can cut that, you know, and I'm just you don't want to cut too far back, because like me, I'm going to reuse these hoses as spare hoses. So I'll just cut off here where the slice ends, and I'll use the rest of this bend of the hose from here to there. And it's only this one that I sliced. The other one I was able to get off normal. And then the same thing on this guy. This one I sliced, and this one I didn't have to slice. So the one I sliced, like from here, I'll just snip that off. But I had to slice it open. I don't know if I hold this open, if you can. Yeah, I can't get a good zoom in there, but you can see where the rubber, you can feel it too if you stick your finger, where the rubber was like glued to the heater core. So anyways, you put the slice in it, and then you're able to get it out. Because when you're under here, like I said, you can't get pliers inside there and try to get that to come loose like you can here. Here you can get pliers and wiggle it off, get it to crack loose when it's boogered on there. Over here you can't, it's real tight quarter. So what you're gonna do is take that razor blade, put a slice, slice, and get a flathead, wedge it out, and then take it out. Whatever you do, do not damage the heater core. It is very fragile, mushy aluminum. You will be having to pull the whole entire dash out of the car to replace that heater core. It's not a fun job. So there's a lot of liability in replacing those heater hoses, and people say, oh, what's the big deal? What's he charging me so much for? He's just replacing some heater hoses. Well, they're not considering the liability that you're taking, and it takes experience. Like, it really takes experience. Like, it's one thing for me to explain it to you on video. For you to actually get in there and do it is a whole nother thing. So those are the new heater hoses installed. Hopefully that never has to get messed with again. It's an upgrade, it's aluminum. You know, everything else is already connected except attaching this end will attach to this back end right here coming, and then the thermostat obviously through there. So yeah, I'm gonna let y'all go. This has been a long video. I think I've covered everything. This is the before of the top end of the work. I did a video of the before on the bottom end and after of the bottom end. I'm doing a video of the before of the top end, and I'm gonna end it here. And then, is the light on? No, the light is off. I'm gonna end it here, and then I'm gonna do another video of the after of the top end, and then I might do one more video. That would be what, this is part 3. The next video would be part 4. When the after, once it's all clean and going back together. And then I might do another video, part 5 of it running. And that should cover my little Costa Rican butt on everything that was done, how, why, the before, after, all that. So thanks for tuning in. Video 3 of what may be a 5-part series. Stay tuned for part 4 coming to you soon, because I'm finishing this thing tonight. I'm gonna put this camera down and boom, 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 clean, 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 put some music on, and then grab the phone again and do part 4 once it's all put back together. So I'll see you on a little bit. God bless. Bye-bye.